Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're unpacking a massive, mind-bending what-if scenario that literally alters the DNA of one of television's absolute most iconic stories. We're looking at how a single, fleeting moment of sheer panic could have transformed a beloved, comforting sitcom into a deeply tragic cautionary tale. Now, we all know how the original story goes, right? But man, the margins for error were razor thin.
Just picture it for a second. The church is packed to the brim. The flowers are perfectly arranged, the guests are shifting nervously in the pews, and Monica's in her dress, totally ready to start the rest of her life. But somewhere out in the massive maze of New York City, the funniest guy in the group, Chandler Bing, has panicked so badly that he's vanished. We are talking about a scenario where he starts wondering if he's about to destroy the best thing that ever happened to him, and he just yields to that terror.
The stark reality we're exploring here is completely irreversible. You know, in the original timeline, Chandler gets cold feet, almost makes a run for it, but ultimately comes back. But in this alternate timeline, his absence on his wedding day becomes permanent. He isn't just running a little late because of some wacky sitcom mix-up. No, he is gone. And that single, totally irreversible decision changes the trajectory of every single relationship in this universe forever.
Okay, moving into Section 1, the catalyst, Chandler's baseline of fear. To really understand how this happens, we have to look at the psychological baseline that pushed him out the door in the first place. This wasn't just some sudden whim. If we track his emotional roadblocks, a super clear pattern emerges. For years, Chandler used jokes as this impenetrable shield to avoid vulnerability. Every serious moment, bam, a punchline. Because commitment genuinely terrified him. He grew up with divorced parents and incredibly chaotic family dynamics, which hardwired this deep fear of becoming emotionally trapped. Throughout his life, he consistently sabotaged relationships the exact second they became too real. So when this secret London hookup slowly turned into the healthiest relationship of his life, he spiraled. He didn't run because he didn't love Monica. He ran because he fundamentally believed he would eventually fail her.
That takes us to Section 2, the blast radius, a devastated Monica. The trigger is pulled. Now let's examine the immediate devastation this abandonment causes. The blast radius, obviously, starts with the bride. Without Chandler returning, Monica's entire character arc violently shifts overnight. The original Monica, the funny, delightfully competitive, organized woman we all love, fades away. In her place, we get an alternate Monica, one who's devastated, deeply scarred, and filled with this genuine, icy anger that we rarely ever saw from her. She truly believed she had finally found the one person who fully accepted her obsessive personality and her need for control. And then, he vanished on a most important day of her life.
This trauma completely dictates her future. Step 1, she endures a profound emotional betrayal. Think about it. She gave him everything. Her apartment became their home, her future became their future. Step 2, she's forced to rebuild her life entirely from scratch, without him. And step 3, the coping mechanism. That kind of betrayal leaves deep, deep scars. It's highly likely she'd throw herself obsessively into her career as a chef, maybe taking over an even bigger restaurant, simply because her work would become literally the only thing she could fully control anymore. She'd be running that kitchen with an iron fist that would make Gordon Ramsay a little nervous.
Which leads us to Section 3, the group divides, splintering loyalties.
The blast radius definitely wouldn't stop with Monica. The entire friend group, the absolute core of the whole story, would inevitably fracture under the weight of this. The loyalties are instantly split. Ross would likely try to defend Chandler at first, right? Because out of all of them, Ross understands panic and emotional breakdowns. Joey, who was stuck filming that war movie during the wedding anyway, would be totally paralyzed, torn between deep loyalty to his best buddy and overwhelming sympathy for Monica. And Rachel, she'd have to step up big time, becoming Monica's crucial emotional anchor in a way that really hadn't been explored since their early days as roommates.
But right in the middle of all this divided loyalty and people tiptoeing around each other, it would be Phoebe who cuts straight through the noise. She'd be the only one blunt enough to deliver the brutal truth that everyone else is just too afraid to say out loud. If he loved her, he should have stayed.
Oof. Now let's flip the perspective for Section 4, the tragic regression, Chandler's internal fallout.
What actually happens to the man who ran away? Tracing his psychological descent, we see it starts with relief. That's exactly how avoidance works. The panic just evaporates the second you make the choice to escape. He'd probably try to convince himself he did the noble thing, telling himself Monica deserved someone more stable. But eventually, the crushing reality hits. He didn't escape his fear. He let his fear make the biggest decision of his entire life. Over time, that apartment feels incredibly empty. The jokes stop landing. He throws up even more emotional walls, leaning heavily on sarcasm, which all leads ultimately to a devastating reunion years later.
His exact condition here is textbook regression, a return to an earlier, way less mature state of being. Monica didn't just change Chandler's relationship status, She changed who he was. She pushed him to mature, to take on responsibility, and even to find a career he actually liked. Without her influence, Chandler just gets emotionally stuck again, hiding behind his humor. You can picture him throwing sarcastic comments at the TV while eating takeout over the sink. He loses his absolute biggest victory. And that victory wasn't just getting married, it was finally believing he actually deserved love in the first place.
Pulling the lens way back, we hit Section 5, the thematic meta-shift, destroying the architecture. This single decision exposes the hidden mechanics of the whole story. In the later years, Monica and Chandler's relationship was the glue holding everything together. Ross and Rachel broke up constantly. They represented emotional instability and chaos. But Monica and Chandler were the exact opposite. They represented stability earned through genuine personal growth. They quietly balanced out all that chaos. If you take Chandler away from that altar, you literally rip out the foundational stability that grounded the whole group. And because of that missing balance, the entire meaning of the story shifts. A narrative that was famously comforting because these characters kept choosing each other over and over again, it violently pivots. It totally stops being an optimistic story about friendship surviving adulthood, and it morphs into this dark, cynical warning about how fear ruins happiness. All that built-up optimism just completely disappears.
Which brings us to our final point. Section 6, the takeaway. Fear stole the future.
Picture the gang reuniting at Central Perk years down the line. Everyone is older, life has moved on. Monica smiles politely at Chandler across the room, but there's this impenetrable, heavy distance there. Because forgiveness doesn't always rebuild trust, right? And in that moment, Chandler realizes something truly gut-wrenching. By choosing escape, he didn't just lose Monica. He lost the incredible, mature, confident version of himself he could have become with her. He realizes, far too late, that choosing courage, evolving, and accepting love, that is what actually sets you free.
People so often think commitment is about losing your freedom. But as we've seen in this explainer, the reality is the exact opposite. Yielding to the fear of commitment is the true loss. So I want to leave you with a pretty haunting reflection to chew on in your own life. When you yield to fear, what beautiful future and what incredible version of yourself is it quietly stealing from you?